in the heart of downtown, nestled between towering skyscrapers, stood one of the most prestigious luxury car dealerships in the city. Known for its sleek design and top-tier clientele, the dealership was a beacon for those who wanted to make a statement with their wealth. The atmosphere was always bustling, filled with the scent of polished leather and the hum of polite conversation. One morning, a man named Oliver Hayes stepped through the dealership's glass doors. Oliver was a simple man in appearance, dressed in worn jeans, a faded t-shirt, and scuffed boots. His salt-and-pepper hair was slightly disheveled, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence that belied his unassuming exterior. Oliver's eyes gleamed with curiosity as he took in the showroom where luxurious cars sat like art pieces under the spotlight. Behind the sleek, minimalist desk at the entrance sat a young woman named Sophia. With a warm smile, she greeted every customer with genuine enthusiasm, treating each person with the same kindness, regardless of their appearance. Sophia had been working at the dealership for just over a year, and though she was at the lowest rung of the corporate ladder, her positive attitude and dedication had not gone unnoticed. Oliver approached Sophia, who greeted him with the same friendly demeanor she offered to every customer. "Good morning, sir. How can I assist you today?" she asked, her voice bright and welcoming. "I'm interested in checking out some of your cars," Oliver replied, his voice soft yet firm. "Of course. I'd be happy to show you around. Is there a particular model you're interested in?" Sophia asked, grabbing a brochure from the desk. Before Oliver could respond, a man named Daniel, one of the senior sales associates, approached with a sharp look in his eyes. Daniel was the epitome of sleek professionalism. His suit was perfectly tailored, his hair meticulously styled. However, beneath his polished exterior, Daniel had a tendency to judge people by their appearance. "Don't worry, Sophia. I'll take it from here," Daniel said with a dismissive wave, subtly nudging her aside. Sophia hesitated, but nodded, stepping back to her desk. Daniel turned to Oliver, his smile professional but his eyes coldly assessing. "Sir, our vehicles are quite exclusive and come with a premium price tag. Perhaps I can direct you to a model that might be within your range," he suggested, his tone dripping with condescension. Oliver raised an eyebrow, but said nothing, simply nodding as Daniel led him to a car at the far end of the showroom. As they walked, Daniel's demeanor grew increasingly patronizing, pointing out features with little enthusiasm and barely concealing his belief that Oliver was wasting his time. Sophia watched the interaction from a distance, her expression tightening with concern. She knew Oliver was being treated unfairly, but in the rigid hierarchy of the dealership, there was little she could do. The other employees continued with their work, either oblivious or indifferent to what was happening. After an hour of strained conversation and thinly veiled insults from Daniel, Oliver quietly thanked him for his time and made his way out of the dealership. As he exited, Sophia caught his eye and offered a small, apologetic smile. Oliver returned the gesture with a nod, his eyes twinkling with an unreadable expression before he disappeared through the glass doors. The next morning, the dealership buzzed with activity as usual, but there was an underlying tension in the air. Rumors swirled that a high-profile client was scheduled to visit, and everyone was on their best behavior. The owner of the dealership, Mr. Callahan, was known for his exacting standards and had made it clear that this client was of utmost importance. Shortly before noon, a sleek black car pulled up in front of the dealership. Out stepped Oliver Hayes, but this time he was accompanied by a well-dressed man carrying a briefcase. The man, who introduced himself as Victor, was Oliver's business consultant. Sophia's eyes widened in surprise as she recognized Oliver, but she quickly composed herself and greeted them both warmly. Daniel, who had been lurking nearby, paled slightly at the sight of Oliver but forced a smile and approached them. "Good to see you again, sir," Daniel said, his voice a bit too cheerful. "Here for another look?" Oliver glanced at him, his expression unreadable, before turning to Sophia. "Actually, I'd like to speak with Mr. Callahan. Is he available?" Sophia hesitated, but nodded. "I'll check for you, sir. Please, have a seat," she said, leading them to a private waiting area. As Sophia went to fetch Mr. Callahan, Daniel hovered nervously, trying to make small talk with Victor, who responded with polite but clipped answers. When Mr. Callahan finally arrived, His face lit up with a broad smile as he extended his hand to Oliver. "Mr. Hayes, it's a pleasure to finally meet you," Mr. Callahan said warmly, shaking Oliver's hand firmly. Daniel's eyes widened in shock, and Sophia couldn't hide her surprise. Oliver smiled faintly, nodding at Mr. Callahan. "The pleasure is mine," he replied. "I've been looking forward to this visit." Mr. Callahan led Oliver and Victor to his office, leaving Daniel standing there, speechless and pale. The other employees, who had been watching the scene unfold, exchanged confused and curious glances. In the privacy of Mr. Callahan's office, Oliver's demeanor shifted slightly, revealing the confidence of a man who was used to making big decisions. As they settled into their seats, Mr. Callahan offered Oliver a drink, which he politely declined. "I'll get straight to the point, Mr. Callahan," Oliver began, his voice calm but authoritative. "I own the manufacturing company that produces the cars you sell here. This dealership is one of our most valued partners, and I've been hearing some troubling reports about how customers are treated here." Mr. Callahan's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly recovered. "I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Hayes. We strive to maintain the highest standards of customer service. If there's been any issue, I assure you we'll address it immediately." Oliver nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I'm glad to hear that. Yesterday I came in here as a regular customer, just to see for myself how things are run. Unfortunately, I didn't like what I saw." Mr. Callahan's face reddened slightly, and he glanced nervously at Victor, who was watching the exchange with interest. "I'm terribly sorry about that, Mr. Hayes. If you had a negative experience, it's certainly not reflective of our standards." "I appreciate your concern," Oliver replied. "But actions speak louder than words. I've seen enough to know that changes need to be made here." Mr. Callahan nodded quickly, eager to appease his important guest. "Absolutely, Mr. Hayes. We'll do whatever it takes to ensure our customers are treated with the respect and courtesy they deserve." Oliver's gaze softened slightly, and he leaned forward. "I believe you, Mr. Callahan, and I want to be part of that change. Starting today, I'm going to be working closely with you and your team to revamp the customer service culture here. We'll be implementing new training programs, and I'll be personally overseeing the progress." Mr. Callahan's eyes widened in surprise, but he nodded, unable to refuse such an offer. "Of course, Mr. Hayes. We'd be honored to have your guidance." "Good," Oliver said with a nod. "And the first thing I'd like to do is promote someone who showed me the kind of respect and kindness that should be the standard here." He turned to Victor, who handed him a folder. Oliver opened it and pulled out a document, handing it to Mr. Callahan. Mr. Callahan scanned the document, his eyes widening as he read. "You want to promote Sophia?" "Yes," Oliver replied firmly. "She treated me with genuine kindness and professionalism, without any regard for appearances. That's the kind of person I want leading the new training program." Mr. Callahan hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. "Consider it done, Mr. Hayes. I'll make the arrangements immediately." Oliver smiled, satisfied. "Thank you, Mr. Callahan. I look forward to working together." As Oliver and Victor left the office, Mr. Callahan followed them out, his expression a mixture of relief and concern. He caught Sophia's eye and gestured for her to follow him to his office. "Sophia," Mr. Callahan began once they were inside, "Mr. Hayes has recommended you for a promotion. You'll be leading our new customer service training program." Sophia blinked in surprise, her heart racing. I'm honored, sir, but I'm not sure if I'm qualified for such a responsibility." Mr. Callahan offered her a reassuring smile. "Mr. Hayes seems to think you are, and I trust his judgment. You'll do great." Sophia nodded slowly, still processing the sudden turn of events. "Thank you, Mr. Callahan. I'll do my best." As Sophia left the office, she felt a mix of excitement and nerves. She had never expected her small act of kindness to lead to something so significant. But as she looked around the dealership, seeing the curious and envious glances from her colleagues, she knew she was ready for the challenge. The dealership underwent a transformation over the next few months, with Sophia leading the way in the new customer service training program. The staff learned to treat every customer with respect and courtesy, regardless of their appearance, and the dealership's reputation began to improve steadily. Customers began to notice the difference, and word of mouth spread quickly. The dealership became known not just for its luxury cars, but for its exceptional customer service. Sophia thrived in her new role, growing more confident with each passing day. She developed new training materials, led workshops, and even implemented a mentorship program for new employees. Her approach was simple but effective. Treat everyone with kindness and respect, and the rest will follow. Meanwhile, Oliver continued to visit the dealership regularly, offering guidance and support. He and Sophia developed a strong professional relationship, built on mutual respect and a shared vision for the dealership's future. One day, as Sophia was wrapping up a training session, Oliver approached her with a thoughtful expression. "Sophia," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about your future here. You've done an incredible job, and I believe you're ready for even more responsibility." Sophia looked at him, surprised but intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" Oliver smiled. "I want you to take on a new role, Director of Customer Experience. You'll be responsible for overseeing all customer interactions, ensuring that our standards are met across all locations." Sophia's eyes widened. "That's a huge responsibility. Are you sure I'm the right person for the job?" Oliver nodded. "I've never been more sure of anything. You have the right instincts, the right values, and the right approach. I know you can do it." Sophia took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. But as she looked into Oliver's eyes, she knew she couldn't say no. "I'm honored, Oliver. I'll do my best." As Sophia settled into her new role, the dealership continued to flourish. The staff embraced the changes, and customer satisfaction reached an all-time high. Sophia's leadership style, grounded in empathy and integrity, set a new standard for the industry. One evening after a particularly busy day, Sophia found herself alone in the dealership, reflecting on how far she had come. The once intimidating environment now felt like home, and she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride in what she had achieved. Just as she was about to leave, Oliver walked in carrying 2 cups of coffee. "I thought you might need a pick-me-up," he said with a smile, handing her a cup. Sophia laughed softly, accepting the coffee. "You always know just what I need." They sat down together in the quiet showroom, sipping their coffee and watching the city lights twinkle outside. After a moment of comfortable silence, Oliver spoke. "You know, Sophia, when I first walked into this dealership, I didn't expect any of this to happen. I just wanted to see how things were being run. But meeting you changed everything." Sophia looked at him, her heart warming at his words. "I'm glad you walked in that day, Oliver. You've changed my life in more ways than I can count." Oliver smiled, his eyes reflecting the same warmth. "And you've changed mine. This dealership is just the beginning. I see a bright future ahead for both of us." Sophia nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I'm ready for whatever comes next." As they finished their coffee and prepared to leave, Sophia couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. The journey that had started with a simple act of kindness had led her to a place she had never imagined, and she knew that the future held even more opportunities for growth and success. With a final glance at the showroom, Sophia and Oliver stepped out into the cool night air, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that together they could achieve anything. And so, the story of Sophia and Oliver came to an end, not with a grand finale, but with the promise of new beginnings and endless possibilities fueled by integrity, respect, and the belief that kindness can change the world.